the guys from Ping, they've kind of shown me how much the equipment matters.
I just love that I can hit any shot I kind of want.
We're going to be able to tell some fun stories about what goes on here to help golfers play better golf.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ping Proving Grounds podcast. I'm Shane Bacon. That is Marty Jertz. And Marty, I am fired up for today's conversation. I am a longtime fan of a driving iron since like way back in the day. I remember the Rapture driving iron came out. I remember having the 2-iron. Like Bill got me fit for it way back in the day in the Bubba Bay. I was obsessed with it out of the gate. Crossover was immediately in the bag. I think at one point I had the 2 and the 3-iron. So the fact that Ping has a new driving iron, if you will, an IDI, I was pumped to see. I was excited to chat with you about, and I want to hear about some of the new things that are going to come with this new golf club. What is new about IDI versus maybe previous iterations, crossover, things like that?
Yeah, Shane, actually we challenged ourselves on this product to totally reimagine like what we should be doing in this product category. So we crossover's been a great product for us. It was kind of named as, it's a cross between a hybrid and a long iron, right. But it's evolved a lot over the years. It was big, it was smaller, it was skinnier. It had, but one big commonality between the crossover, all the crossovers, is they're really long heel to toe. And so we didn't see the tour penetration with the crossover like we expected to. So we spent a lot of time with our tour players, like, what are you looking for this club to do? Like a driving iron type club to do. And we really reimagined like all the goals around this and some of the problems we were trying to solve. And so, we felt because it's so new, so different for us, and we'll talk about some of the specifics there, it was deserving of a rebrand. And so we're calling this the I driving iron. That's why it's called the IDI, because it blends right into like our I-240 series iron, our I type of player, so to speak.
Marty, we've talked a lot about lofted woods on these podcasts over the years, and it felt like, and it feels like this on tour as well, it felt like there was this big shift. I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago now, where there were a lot more head covers in the bag of PGA Tour players. For so long it was driver, it was 3-wood, and then it was immediately into like a 2-iron, 3-iron, crossover, something like that. That has shifted over the last few years. Why maybe the focus back in this space for golfers that are going to use a 2-iron or a 3-iron or a 4-iron, maybe clubs that good players don't typically think about throwing in the bag? Yeah,
Shane, that's a great question. I mean, we have so many options in the transition part of the bag. High lofted fairway woods, our hybrids are doing great with the G440. Now we have this IDI in here. Then you have long irons. It's okay. What do you want all these clubs to do? And so we do have a lot of players that are looking for a club to maybe swap in for certain conditions, whether it's the Open Championship, whether it's just any number of those courses that get a little bit firmer. They're going to need a club off the tee to chase a little bit more. So that was number one. How do we give a club that's a little bit more focused off as a tee shot club for those particular weeks? And then while we're at it, how do we have this club that transition better from a feel standpoint, from a look standpoint, from a face closure, turf interaction into their long irons? And while we're doing it, let's build a 4-iron that's really nice too, that can possibly be a 4-iron replacement and go even a little bit higher. So one of the things with the IDI family, Shane, is that we make a 2, 3, and a 4. And each of those are uniquely optimized to accomplish different goals. So the 2-iron is definitely your club you're going to see like the Open Championship type of conditions.
Like off the tee. I mean, you're hitting this off the tee. You're hitting the stinger. It's going, for tour guys, it might be going 280 or something like that.
Exactly, yes. And it's kind of a one-trick pony. Like it's your tee shot club. It's going to launch relatively low. And that thing's going to be out there chasing. It's going to be easy to hit stingers. It's your fairway finder for those Open Championships. Need to carry it down there 240, hit different trajectories, run it out, chase it out there to 260 to 280, whatever, for the faster swing speed players. Then we got the 3. The 3 is going to be a club that, you could probably hit the 2, Shane. The 2's too much for me, okay? The 3 is going to be more in the sweet spot for me. This is going to be my club that I can fly at 250. It's going to have obviously lower spin than a hybrid or high lofted fairway would, but it's going to give me more launch, more spin, a little more forgiveness than, let's say, if I played a 3-iron, right? So, but because the flat face, I'm going to be able to use off the tee. Then if I have a decent lie, decent conditions into a par 5, got to get up by the green. Maybe if the conditions allow for it, get it on the green from about 250 carry or so. I'm going to have that option in the bag. And then the 4, Shane, goes high. And so even those call to eye driving iron, for the listeners out there, the 4-iron, and we're seeing this very much so in right out of the gate with our tour players, are using it as a 4-iron replacement. Corey Connors, one ultimate golf flusher out there, which is like, okay, he doesn't need a 4-iron replacement with a driving iron type club. He put it in the bag immediately. This is in my bag, Shane, is my new 4-iron, is the IDI 4-iron with the Tour 90X shaft in it. And I'm hitting some fantastic shots, man. The 4-iron is that club in my bag for me. It's a little fragile. If I'm flushing it, if I got some speed, if it's warm out, okay,
we all have that spot.
I can do it.
That spot in the bag.
But it's my fragile spot. And so the IDI 4-iron has been my savior there. So these 3 different lofts all accomplish very different goals, each uniquely optimized. The lofts are 17, 20, and 23, and man, oh man, we've had great success on the tour so far early. It's very, very early.
Yeah, early on tour, I mean, guys had it in the bag at the U.S. Open. I mean, you don't necessarily think about maybe Oakmont in traditional conditions. You'd see players maybe wanting to run balls out, but I don't think it screams wet Oakmont to me. Yet players were throwing it in the bag and playing it for the week at a U.S. Open. Yeah,
I mean, Victor put the 3-iron right in. And so he's a great example. Corey Connors, Brian Campbell, Laurie Cantor has a couple of them in the bag in the 2 and the 3. And again, each of these, I just love that we have the ability to have these different options. So we have some of the players playing the 2 as the driving club, a lot of them in the 3. Then we got players like Corey Connors playing the 4 as a straight up, just legit 4-iron replacement. And with how we did the loss and the lengths and the launch and the spin, it fits in seamlessly. So we've had these solutions, Shane, where I've done it myself, where I'd play like the I-530 4-iron, and then I got my blueprint 4-iron, and psychologically it's a little weird to have 2 4-irons in the bag. You know,
I think Sahith did that as well, right?
Yes.
Sahith have 2 of the same irons, but they went different distances. You know, you mentioned crossover, and as I've said, I've been a crossover player since they first came out. I mean, I've played the 2-iron, I've played the 3-iron, I've played both at times. But it feels like what you're saying with IDI is it almost feels and looks and maybe even sounds closer to what a traditional iron will play like, yet not sacrificing distance. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yeah. So when you first set it down, Shane, what you're going to notice is the blade length is way shorter than our crossover. So these comparisons are going to be to crossover. It's about 20% shorter. And then obviously what you're going to see when you first set it down or look at it in the bag is the sole is substantially wider. So we're pulling the CG, so way shorter blade length. So it's going to feel more like your irons from a closure standpoint, like the offset of the CG of the shaft. Pick it up, waggle it, close your eyes, swing it, make impact with it. It's going to have that sensation, the kinetics. What you feel through your hands is going to feel more like a long iron because we shorten that blade length up. Wider sole, that's going to pull the CG back a little bit, boost the inertia. And one of the big things this is an big advantage of the original Rapture driving iron, Shane, is that one of the challenges with driving iron type clubs is you get that little lie in the rough where the ball's sitting up and you hit it high in the face and it goes absolutely nowhere.
Just falls out of the sky.
Out of the sky. So we put a lot of emphasis on improving what's called the IXX, and this is the inertia that helps you reduce the gear effect, preserve ball speed, preserve your launch and spin, even if you hit it a little high on the face and low on the face. This is super important in a driving iron style of club. And so what you see with the shaping, little squattier, shorter heel to toe, a little less offset so it blends more in with your better player irons, and then that wider sole, and how the mass is distributed helps you, gives you more forgiveness if you hit a little high on the face.
What was some of the feedback in terms of crossover from tour players that maybe got the team thinking about IDI?
Yeah, I think it was a couple things. One, we had the trajectory tuning sleeve and crossover, but we couldn't always get to like the loft and lie they needed. So while the trajectory tuning sleeve was a great tool and feature in that club to help the consumer and the fitter and the fitting bay to try different loft and lie configurations, we couldn't bend them enough to hit different lie angles. So actually an advantage of crossover now, or the IDI now, Shane, when you look at it, has a very big hosel notch in it, which is kind of classic for us at Ping. That helps us hit our entire lie angle color code range. So we prioritize the color code fitting over the trajectory tuning sleeve, and we view that as going to be a positive benefit now. And you, as a consumer out there, now you can just order these at the color code of your irons and they'll work fantastic. This is a big deal for me. Getting mine dialed in is making sure I could hit the right color code. So that was number one. Number two was having it go low enough for the long iron in the 2-iron, right? So we wanted to make that 2-iron club go super duper low. Number three was more forgiveness when you impacted it high and low on the face. Number four, shorter blade length. That was a really big deal for the tour players, is they just wanted something with a lot shorter blade length. And I think when they were conceptualizing that and trying to describe that, Shane, it was both the look, but then also the feel. They wanted the feel of it to match their irons.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. It feels like this is maybe the most unique club Ping has made in a while. I mean, you think about, you go Rapture, crossover. It was a different golf club, obviously with a lot of new technology, but they had similar characteristics. I mean, you think about, every wood is going to look similar to, previous iterations of fairway woods. Are all in the family. When you look at IDI, this looks like a golf club that has never existed in the Ping family before. I mean, it seems like it's almost like a whole new category. Yeah,
totally. And that's what made this project super fun. The lead engineer, Mark Bloxham, on this, he was able to kind of start from scratch, right? And I think you're right, Shane. Like a lot of our product categories where there might be major innovative technology in the construction of it, but the profile might look the same, or making little tweaks in how we execute the trajectory tuning sleeve and things of that nature. We were able to start the IDI project kind of from scratch, reimagine what problems we need to solve here, really anchor down with our tour players, which, Shane, it's been so fun to see how many of these are in play out of the gate. I was very bullish on the IDI. If I view our clubs like a stock pick, at the beginning of the year, I'm like, okay, IDI is going to be a sleeper. IDI is off to a really great start.
I mean, that is it's so cool. I mean, and I always go, does Marty approve, right? And I think Marty, when you've got him like immediately in the bag, I know you're immediately a fan. What about sound and feel for these golf clubs? I mean, is it as similar to like a 500 series iron? Is it a little bit more like an I series iron? Is it kind of own feel and sound?
Yeah, it's got a little bit more towards the I-500 series iron, like our I-530, because the face is moving. It's flexing a lot. It's got that barraging C300. This material is used in landing gear, Shane, because it's super flexible, can withstand impacts a lot. The face is thinner than the crossover. It's 5% thinner. But we were able to engineer a brand new technology, Shane, called, we're calling it inR-Air. And there's actually a kind of a bag inside the head that's filled with air, so it's super lightweight, and it dampens vibration substantially so that we can have a very thin face, very thin wall kind of structure to it without any undesired acoustics and sound. So it's very unique. And again, I think, kind of similar to I-240, Shane, where you want to have this I think Dr. Sasha McKenzie calls it your perception coupling action. It's like you want to have the sound match how the club looks and how your brain thinks it's going to behave. And I really think we nailed that with the IDI. It's a nice sound. It sounds powerful, but not glassy and not clicky. And it's kind of what you expect from this type of club. Like you want it to have a little bit of pop to it, little ball speed to it, and it does, but not in any undesirable way.
Got to send Michael Jordan a set of these. Shout out for a little bit of air in the golf club.
That's right.
So we talked a little bit about tour players. What about the everyday player? You know, the everyday golfer that's going out and considering maybe, you know, kind of going with the combo set. Where does IDI fit for the everyday 12 handicap in terms of what they might be looking for in that longer portion of the golf bag?
I think the 4 is a great option for your everyday player to look at, is simply just your straight up forehand replacement, right? And so you can go out and hit it, demo it, try it out with a lot of great shaft options. You and your fitter can also lean upon our tool and co-pilot. So Shane, one of the fun things with the gapping app, which I know we talk a lot about in terms of building your whole bag out, we never got the crossover into our algorithms and all that stuff with the gapping app. It's a little bit of a niche club, you know, different trajectory profiles to it. But we're very excited with the launch of the IDI and I-240 at the same time, is to have both of those now in the gapping app. So now in the gapping app, you can get a recommendation and do some little what if experiments, like what will the trajectory be with the IDI 4-iron, and figure out if that's something you want to consider. And then the 3-iron, Shane, is going to be the IDI 3. It's going to be a great club again. If you have ample amount of speed, you're looking for a tee shot club. I know so many players, whether it's Arizona Golf or in other parts of the country, that need a really good tee shot club, and occasionally you need it on the long par 3 or a second shot to the par 5. And then if you have a lot of speed, I got a member at my club, Shane, former baseball player, professional baseball player, and driver's too much for him on nearly every hole, Arizona Golf. He's wearing out. He's just wearing out he will wear out the IDI 2-iron when he gets it. So that's a great option. The 2 is pretty spicy though. You gotta have some heat to send that thing out there. So the 3 and the 4 are going to be fantastic options for the everyday golfer. And if you got the speed, take a look at the 2.
You talk a little bit about gapping. I think one thing people wonder about in terms of like a driving iron, and I think it's fair to call this a driving iron with IDI, is if I go from 5 to 4, does the numbers massively jump? Like, have you seen that?
Yeah.
I don't want to call it an issue, but do you see that as something people have to think about, or when they jump into Copilot or they jump into the gapping app, just to kind of consider when they're looking at maybe the numbers from, you know, if you hit it, let's say you hit it 260 off the tee, and then you've got to use those 4 and 5 irons occasionally into par 4s. What's that gapping look like between maybe a I-244 iron to the IDI, the 245 iron to an
5
IDI
iron,
4
240. Yeah, no, it's that was actually a really big thing we tried to focus on with the IDI. In a couple ways we did it is so that it does gap seamlessly. I've seen this with my own bag. I went right from the Blueprint. I replaced my Blueprint S4 iron with the IDI 4 iron, everything stock. So 23 degree stock loft, and also Shane stock length. So one of the variables that Mark, the lead designer, worked on was shortening the standard lengths a little bit. So when you set them down, that was another thing, a little piece of feedback from our tour players, like, hey, the blade length's long, then the club is a little bit too long, right? So we kind of shortened it up, so now it feels more like a long iron. That does a couple things. That helps with gapping because the length progression now matches your long irons a little bit more. And then the 4 having plenty of loft is been seamless. So both for myself, Corey Connors, I think his specs are exactly just stock. 23 degrees, our stock length. And what you're going to see from the 4, Shane, is that not necessarily that it's going to go massively further than maybe your I-244 iron. It's going to help you get the ball in the air easier and be more forgiving. So your percentage of the time that you're hitting high quality shots, which is a good metric to think about with your long irons, is going to go up.
I think something that we've talked a lot about in terms of fitting is the open-mindedness to go get fit, right? And I think that's something that, golfers go in with an idea of this is the club I want to play, which is, I think, great to have in the back of your mind when you go in and do this. But, you think about, the incredible success of the fairway woods, high lofted fairway woods. You think about the success of the hybrids. You think about the success of the irons, depending on if you're maybe a higher handicap player or lower handicap player. Now you have IDI to throw in there as well. I think about fitting in terms of taking the time for the top parts of your bag and making sure it's adequate enough when you go get fit to think about all these options, because the options continue to expand, which means you can really get dialed on exactly the right club for how you play, conditions you play, swing speed, obviously, that you possess.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very fun time in the golf world, in the golf equipment world. I think consumers have so many options out there for those transition clubs. Shane, I think I'm a big fan, if it warrants it for you, the golfer out there, the listener out there, to get a couple options in this part of the bag. Like maybe you want to have a 7-wood or a 9-wood for certain conditions, certain times of year. Maybe if you're traveling or things of that nature, then you have a IDI 3-iron or 4-iron you throw in the bag. I know I usually travel with 16 clubs in my trunk, and I'm always swapping out whether, IDI 3-iron, that won't be in my bag for every tournament. I'll put my G440 4-wood in there for some tournaments and swap it out depending on the conditions. So it's fantastic. Yes, it could be a little overwhelming, but that's why we have tools like Copilot. We train our fitters. And folks out here listening to the pod can get a little more educated. That was a big goal of the pod, Shane, is that for listeners out there to be more educated so they can have a better understanding of this nuance and ask some questions, get a little jump start when they go in and try these clubs and get them dialed in. One fun thing about the IDI for listeners to think about is how to think about shaft options. And it is working really well, again, with our tour players, and I'll even use myself a little bit here personally, to build this with our hybrid shafts, right? Our tour players are putting their hybrid shafts in there. They're not putting, Corey Connors isn't putting his dynamic gold or whatever he's using in there, right? So, and same for me. I'm playing our Tour 90 black, our new black version of the tour shaft, 90 gram in there, and it is absolutely fantastic. The blade length is a big part of the turf interaction. It makes it feel more consistent, like your irons.
Slower speed players. I mean, is this an option for them at all? Could they lean into the 4-iron and use that in any capacity?
Yeah, the 4 would be worth looking at, but at a certain speed threshold, Shane, you need speed to generate spin, and without spin, you lose kind of the lift on the golf ball that gives you peak height. So that's a great spot to look at our high lofted hybrids and high lofted fairway woods. And again, Gappy app can help give you a little jump start to make sure you don't make a mistake. I think that's one of the big things is we don't want to fit you into a golf club that maybe you do even get hit good in the fitting environment, but you get out on the golf course, it doesn't fly high enough.
I want to walk around Bandon Dunes in about 3 months and just see how many IDIs are in golf bags there. I get so many people that ask questions. They'll send me a DM on Instagram about going to Scotland or going to Bandon or going to Sand Valley or one of these places where the golf is different. Anything new to bring? And one of my first things I say is, do you have rain gloves? I mean, it's like, make sure you have rain gloves. Very important on a trip like that. But I do think equipment is something people probably bypass occasionally when they're thinking about these trips. Rain pants, rain jackets, vests, rain gloves, things like that. And there is equipment that can help you on a golf trip just as much as something like that can help you, because the golf is so different than what you're going to play maybe if you live in Ohio,
Totally, yeah. No, if you're going on your bucket list trip to Scotland or Bandon Dunes, I mean, IDI is a great one to look at. All the other little ancillary gear, Shane, you mentioned, man, get your Ziploc bags out,
Bucket hat, yeah.
Your bucket hat and all that stuff.
Everything ready. The best part about those trips is when you don't have to use it, right?
Yes.
When you went and spent like $400 on all this stuff and you go, I didn't use any of it, but that's then you got lucky with the weather. One thing with these types of clubs, and as I mentioned, something really new for Ping, and there's so many great players at Ping. What's been the reception from the staff there at Ping, the good players that obviously get excited for new equipment? I mean, as IDI, do you see it across the board in terms of players' bags?
Tons. And we have a lot of golfers that are playing in all of our local amateur events and occasionally getting in the USGA 4-ball and a mid-am and things of that nature. And the IDI has been this has been one that when we were working on it, it's one where you're waiting for the day. When does this baby come out? When can I use it in a tournament? And so yeah, with the kind of competitive, I'll call it the competitive golfers that have a little bit of speed, IDI has been fantastic. The 4-iron again for me, Shane. This is my personal favorite club of the year. For my helping
club
my
of the
game.
Year.
So if it was the Thriver 2 years ago, it's the IDI 4-iron for me this year.
God, we need like a Marty stamp on the pod that like comes up like Oprah's book club or something or whatever you say. It's my club of the year. That's I listen. There's nothing better than hearing that from somebody that has designed so many great golf clubs across the board. And you know me. I mean, as I've said, the driving iron, it was a club when I was younger that as a lefty wasn't easy to get.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before we got the pod going. There were clubs back in the day that I dreamed of having as a lefty that weren't available. And when I first saw images of IDI, I'm like salivating, because it just is a golf club that I'm going to use. Like the 2-iron will be a club that I will occasionally be playing.
Yep.
Depending on the golf tournament. You play these Northeast golf courses that have tiny corridors, but they're pretty firm. And if you hit them in the right spot, the ball can run out 30 or 40 yards. That's a layup for me. I mean, that's an auto put in the bag and play it. And I just love the options of 2, 3, 4 and kind of mixing them with the set. I mean, going back to mixed sets being such a big part of what Ping is and basically the business of Ping in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. And we've already seen this on tour, but the way we spaced out the specs is there's room to play multiple of these. Crossover, we kind of viewed that as you would play like one. Most players kind of just had one of those in the bag. So the lofts were spaced a little bit closer together, like 2.5 degrees. But with the IDI, again, we separated the lofts a lot. So we got 18, 20, 23. And, of course, we can loft and lie them, so we have a little bit of wiggle room there. If you need it 21 or whatever, we can absolutely 100% do that. Full color code range to get them dialed in. But there's going to be, and I could definitely see this in your bag too, Shane, where you might play a couple IDIs, right? That's what I'm doing. That's what we're already seeing on tour. So it's just super fun, man. Whether you're Corey Connors using as a 4-iron replacement or Victor Hovland using as a tee shot club, from 250, this can go a couple of different ways for you, or you play them both.
Marty, I remember the story back in the day of the Apple engineer that had the new iPhone and left it in the bar and like somebody found it. When you first hit IDI, yet you can't take it out in tournament golf, how much were you itching to get it like actually in the bag once, the date was allowing you to go take it out there and play it in a tournament? Sometimes
we do these research rounds and I'll put on an iron cover, to conceal it. Kind of like you see the Teslas out there where they're all covered up before the Model Y launches or whatever. And so, yeah, I snuck in a couple research rounds with the IDI.
I like research rounds, by the way. That's really funny. Marty Jurtson, the IDI, his club of the year in 2025. Appreciate the time, my man. This is the Ping Proving Grounds podcast.